Okay, so let's get started. So last time I think we discussed about parameters. So I'll again just import the data. So we looked at these first six category of charts. So yeah. So next let's go to line chart. So line chart is a very interesting one in which you can look at the trend of how the the data fluctuates over the period of time, and not just period of time. You can add any other variables in your x-axis, and accordingly your data you can map. So so let's take ship date. Okay, so when you add a date in your chart, if you see by default there is an hierarchy, right? So you can go to year, quarter, month, and a day, right? So let's just see what that actually represents. And what I'll do, I'll just take this profit and I'll put it into y-axis. Okay. So for now, what you see is that the for ship date, it is showing by the year what is the profit, right? And as you see, whenever there is an hierarchy built in over here, whenever there is an hierarchy, so in Power BI there is by default, if Power BI identifies the column as date column, it will by default take it as a hierarchy, and hierarchy will always be represented in year, quarter, month, and a day. So as you see, for now it looks like it is by year. Okay, so you see there are some arrows. Okay, so we'll explore the two arrows that you see. So it tells me that go to the next level in hierarchy. So when I click on this, it tells me by quarter. But again, if you see, if you go back, what you're looking at is that the it is a consolidated years data. So if you look Q1, Q2, so Q1 has 2014, 2015, 2016, right? Uh, so that's the caveat. Okay. And if I go to the next level, it again shows month wise. But what it shows is for March for all across all years, right? And then I go days, then day meaning 0 to 30, like day of the month, right? So this is the no, no. So this is for entire year, and now, yeah, yeah, yes, yeah. So it is all years. It is all years, and that's why it is very confusing. So that's why there is another way to tackle this. So uh, so what you can do is that uh, over here, let's say the best visualization that people always want to see, you remove day and quarter. Okay, you have year and month, and then expand all down one level in hierarchy, right? So when you expand it, uh, you see by every month and by every year. Yeah, so that's how you can do it. So using this expand level, and then you can again go back, drill up to the year, and again you can go back to this expanded view of your data, right? So this is month. Yeah, 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 we can do quarter and day as well. So I'll add ship date again. Okay, and let's say I want to do year and quarter. Okay, so I have removed that, and I don't know why this. Okay, it's already showing it. So now if you see, it's in the year wise, and when I say expand all levels, it is showing 2016 Q1, 2016 Q2, 2016 Q3, right? So this is how you can do it. My recommendation that whenever you are using this is always use in order to not confuse and be very clear, because Q1 Q2 represents different for different company. Now, in the context of Power BI, Q1 represents the uh, Jan, Feb, March, right? So it's a calendar quarter. So the best way I would do it is that I'll take the ship date, I'll remove quarter, I'll remove day, right? And I'll show it year and month wise. Okay. And in my x-axis, I will say categorical. So when I say categorical, it even makes a little more sense to show that which year and which month we are talking about. And assuming that you have 5 6 years of data or 4 years of data, what I would more recommend is that you have a slicer over here. I think we have not taken slices, right? So uh, just bear it with me for now. I'll explain what slicer is. It's kind of a filter, right? And in this, you take ship date, and you take year in this, right? And then you have 2014, 2015, so and so forth, so that you can play around with your data for every month specifically. So that's how I would recommend to use line chart for your analysis. And then the another aspect of line chart is, along with profit, you can also see sales. So I'll add sales. So you can show two lines together, right? So because we are always looking to add more and more things, so that's how you can use a line chart, and like two lines along with x-axis or y-axis, right? So, and without dates also. So like, let's say if I remove dates and I add a category, so by category also you can show this graph. So that's how you can use this for your own analysis. Then we have legends as well. So if I take a segment and add a legend, it won't add because there are multiple axes playing. So if I remove secondary axis and add a segment, then it will get added, because let's say there are two lines that you're trying to show, one is profit and one is sales, then it won't accept any legend. But if you just show one line, then what legend does is that it splits that three lines again into three categories. So that's why either you can use legend or you can use secondary y-axis, but it's always plug and play. You can always add things and play around. So so yeah, that's how you can do things. um, and then the next is let's small multiples. We have already seen what small multiple does, right? So small multiple again splits this data into multiple factors, right? Like same day, second day, shift day, so on and so forth. So again, you can do all those things. And tooltips, like we spoke about last time, right? So if I add an average of discount in tooltip, I'll say average, right? So and then I'll see average of discount, right? Segment, corporate, and and profit. How much does profit is for every category? Yeah. So this is how you can use this line chart. Okay. So far, uh, if I try to you know um, remember, so we looked at how to make charts, right? We looked at types of filters. So the types of filters we looked at was, the first is visual level filter, right? Second we looked at is report page level filter. Third is report level filter. Any questions you had in these, like in these three levels of filters, or was it? Yeah. Okay. Perfect. Uh, and then the fourth one that we looked at was interactivity, right? So interactivity between visuals. So like if you have two visuals and you want to stop visuals changing up with click from one click on one visual and another visual should not get changed, then you can have that interactivity set. So that is interactivity between visuals. So you can also do that. So far we have seen like four categories of filter, right? So we'll also look at other types of filter today. Okay. So there are around, I would say, 8 to 10 ways you can filter data, and it's always uh, it's up to you and how you want to engage that story to show that filter. So the next one that I want to talk about is slicer, right? So slicer is present over here in the sixth row or fifth row, third column. So when I take this, right, and add a region in it, I can, what happens after that. So let's say I create this chart, okay, by category and by region. I am looking at sales, right? So this is my data for every region, right? So I have four regions and I have three categories and I'm showing sales. So if I click on center, again data changes quickly as I move ahead, right? So this is a, by default, a filter that is in your visualization pane. So the difference between the filters that we looked at last time were like these three filters, and this filter is that this filter is more of, I would say, user friendly, because what happens is that when we publish the report, users see something like this, right? And just white part, not the one that is above, right? So for them it's easier to look and change things from here than, and the filter pane is also visible. The visualization and data pane won't be visible when you share the report, but from here to change things, it's quite difficult for them. Hence, although it's a good practice to use these filters, sync slicer is, I would say, more user friendly, and when you want to give more freedom to users to change things, so that's when you use this slicer that is present over here. Also, in terms of report performance, uh, you won't deal that right now because you're not dealing with at least billions of rows of data. But when you are dealing with a very complex report or very huge report, the performance of your report will be slowed down if you use slicer over here, because this is additional query that happens above your calculations, whereas if you use filters over here, it will be less intense on your server. So if your data size is huge, I would recommend using filter pane, but if your data size is small, or the report is not slowing down by any means, then you can use region over here, like the filter over here. So so yeah, that's the only caveat, and it happens only when your report is acting very slow and your data size is very huge. In that situation only, you should be little careful with the slices that I'm showing. The other options that with these slicers is that when you go to formatting, you have slicer settings. Okay, so in this there is a style. So for now we are showing a vertical list, so we can show a tile, right? So if you click on this tile, so again you can change things. Let's say you want to click on two things, like central and south, so you can select control and say central and south. Yeah. Yes, yes, yes. And let's say you want to clear the filter. This is the clear selection option that you can clear, right? Now let's say that for some reason that you don't want users to see south in your filter, right? So what you can do is you can use visual level filter and just exclude south. So south won't be visible. So that's one way you can play around with filters as well. So you can filter the filter as well. So that's way okay. Uh, yes, yes. So that's how you can play around. And so as I said, like this supersedes any filters that are acting, right? So let's say I just say that uh, on a page level I add a region, right? Region level filter on a page level, and now here I'll just say east. So even in my filter pane I'll just see east. Even in my report I'll say east, because this filter is acting on a page level, right? So it removes all the filters that are present. So that's how you can play around, with data. So sometimes what happens is that you have one column. Let's say you have all the cities name present over there, but within those city names there are empty values, right? There are some null values, there are some NAs, right? And it looks weird when you are showing that in your slicer, right? So you can just use visual level or page level filter and just exclude those values. So that's how you can play around, assuming that that data you don't want to show. So yeah, that's one way of handling. So you can play around, and that's how this filter pane is really useful. And apart from that, as we discussed last time, sometimes even we don't know, right, after developing report what we have done. So we can always go back and see the filters on this visual and say the region is east, west, or south. So that's another good thing about Power BI, that it tells you that okay, this is the filter being applied on this visual. Okay, the other type of formatting I wanted to show was uh, drop down. So drop down is the best one. I would always recommend you using drop down instead of list or a tile, because it is more user friendly and consumes the least amount of space. Because let's say you want to create a huge dashboard, the drop down will consume the least amount of space for you, right? So and then that's how you can play around with it. Now, apart from this, there is a selection type, right? So you should always, it's a good practice to say show all, right? So sometimes you don't know that which one you want to select. So always have that select all option in front of you, so that all of them are selected. And out of those 10, 15 values, I just want to exclude this one. So that's how you can go around it, right? So let's say instead of region, I will add a city over here, right? And now I just want to exclude New York. So what I'll do is that I'll select all and I'll go and find New York. So it looks like it's a huge list. So another best practice is that we go to these three dots and we add a search button, and then I'll type it over here. So I'll say New York, New York City. I don't want, right? And that's it. So that's how I've excluded one value, and all the rest of the values are present over there. So the best practice, again I'll show, is that I delete this and I'll create again. I add a slicer. Okay, I'll take a city. Now what I'll do is that I'll go to slicer settings. I'll take a drop down. Once I have the drop down, I say select all option, and after adding select all, I say search enabled, right? So this enables my search, and then when I want to search for Dallas, I have Dallas, right? So I can just select that one, or I can say select all and remove Dallas. Select all and then Dallas. So when I go and see this filter, it says city, not Dallas. So again, it helps us to understand, okay, this is the filter which is being applied over here. Sometimes what happens is that let's say you build a dashboard, uh, users might not know how to use it, like you won't, so you would have to educate them in a way that okay, you can go to this drop down, search what you want, select it or deselect it, and then see again. Or if you want to say select two values, then you have to press control and select two values. So sometimes these things are also uh, we tend to sometimes not give importance, but again, use more user friendly you are, so better it helps you to understand what their root cause problems. Okay, so yeah, this is slicer, as you have seen. uh, Now what happens with slicer is that, the idea behind using slicer, that whenever we use it, I'll show you how we use it, right? So um, so we what we do is that the best practice in terms of what we do is that, we always add a filter pane. Okay, so what we do is we go to insert, and we add a shape. Okay, and I'll add a rectangle. Okay, now this rectangle, I'll just say over here. Okay, and let's say I'm doing it for Coca-Cola, right? So what I'll do, I'll go to this shape fill, and I'll just make it red color, right? Now, and here, over here, I will add a filter, okay? And there are some things that I'm doing which you might not understand, so just ignore them for now. But like, just bear it with me, okay? So like, as you can see, so, and what I'll do is I'll also add a company logo over here, uh, which is Coca-Cola or DHL or whatever. And then I'll copy this, and I will add maybe a category over here, right? I'll again add a slicer over here, which would be my mode, right? And in this style, I'll maybe use some this color, different color, and then here, when I use slicer, I have effects with me, so I'll just remove this background, and whenever I want to format things, I'll just select one visual, and I use format print. So it removes that background. And and then, this is how us filter pane that we use, and people can just, select whatever they want, and they can go around with their dashboard. So the idea, or the message that I want to convey is that, if let's say you are creating a dashboard, and in that dashboard, if you are planning to use 4 or 5 filters, make sure that you have a designated pane, and with that designated pane, you can play around with, like, all the filters at one place. So users know, okay, all my filters are over here, and all my visualizations on the right side. So that's how you can play with it. Along with that, there is another addition that we also do, is that we hide this filter pane, and I'll again show you in future in upcoming classes how do we do it. But I always hide my visualization pane, and I just add a button over here that says show slicer. So when they click on show slicer, then this pane appears. They select what they want, and again there is this space which says, go back or hide the filter pane. Again, they click on it, and they see all the charts based on that. So that's the good practice that we follow, and I'll again share in detail how do we use it. So that is achievable using bookmarks, and bookmark is what we are taking in upcoming sessions. So in that case, I'll use this. I'll show this use case, and I'll do it again. So yeah, that's how you can do it. Um, so yeah, I hope this is clear, Slicer. Okay. So the next part I wanted to talk about, so I'll just say for our understanding. So we looked at fifth category of filter, which is slicers. Okay. Now the sixth type of filter that I wanted to show is, I think my Excel is not visible, right? For some reason. Oh, okay, okay. Yeah, maybe. I'll just, so I'll say stop sharing, and Okay, so now you can see, right? So yeah, sorry about that. So we looked at how to make charts. We looked at types of filters like visual, page, report, interactivity between visuals, right? So we looked at five different ways of filtering data, and let's go and see the other types. Okay. The sixth one that I want to talk about is the sync slicer. Sync slicers. So what does sync slicer do is that, let's say you have slicers, and what you want to do is that, let's say you share this with your vice president. He's very busy guy. So when he selects category office supplies, right, and you have three more pages in your report, right? So if you want these to be consistent with across the pages, so what you can do is, like, let's say I create a bar graph over here with category and quantity, right? Now I'll again copy this. I'll create another page, and in this page, I'll show category wise sales. Okay. So these are the things that I'm showing in page. Uh, I'll call this as first page, page one. This is my page two, and this is my page three. Okay. So I want to, what slicers that I'm selecting over here should get applied on page 2 and page 3 as well. Okay. So the way I can do it, I click on this slicer, I go to this view option. In this view, there is a sync slicer option present over here. Okay. I'll just select sync slicer. So what it tells me is that it is visible on the first page, right? So it is visible on the first page, and it is also affecting the first page. So you can ignore there are two tabs, but there is some bug in Power BI. So, you know, when I select one, it gets selected both of them. But the idea is that, when you select slices on first page, automatically this would be visible on page 2, page 3 with the same selection that I have on page 1. So if I go to second page, this slicer is already present over here, and office supplies being filtered over here. Same goes for page 3. Okay. So it is visible at the same time it is applied as well. So let's say I change office supplies to technology, right? And if I go to my first page again, my first page would be in sync with what it is there with technology. Okay, so it's not there because I have not kept in sync with it. So I'll say in sync with it, right? And now if I select technology, and if I go back, there will be technology present over here. So that's how you can do sync slicers. The option gets visible. The sync slicers, when you select a slicer, and it tells you for now it is visible on page. So you say, I want it on page 2 and page 3, and then I go to this page 3 and I select, let's say, just one country, Allen, and then when I go back again, that city is present over here. So what you're doing is that whatever slicers you're making, those slicers are consistent across all pages. So that sometimes what happens is that they feel they are looking at category technology, but as they move forward with the dashboard, if they are not in sync, the data will show all of the values. So what they would think is that, okay, so my technologies region is doing really well, or they might come back to you saying, okay, my data looks really wrong. So that's why it's always a good practice to make sure that the slicers are consistent across all pages. Yeah, sync slicers, yes. Yes. Okay, so now sync slicers. So again, to show view sync slicers. Okay, but that is how you can do it. And the seventh category of filter that I want to talk about is drill through. So that is the sad reality of Power BI is that, no matter how beautiful your dashboard is, people would love to export it into Excel. And no matter whichever company you go to, how much tech savvy they are, they would always say, I want my data exported in Excel. So the way you can do it is that, let's say you make a line chart, right? Um, this line chart, you are showing year-wise sales, right? So let's take order date, I take year and month, I take profit in my y-axis, and add quantity in my secondary y-axis, right? And I'm showing this by year and month, right? So it is consistent. Um, Now, what happens is that, let's say they want to see, when they look at a data point, like let's say they look at 2016 September, they want to see for that specific period of month and year which transactions took place. Okay, so if they click on this number, they want a list of transactions where what happened exactly in 2016 September, and what they want is they want to export everything in Excel. So how you can do it is that you go over here. So there are two ways you can create. So in Excel we have pivot, right? I'm sure you have used it. So similarly, we have a table making function. So table is what it does. That it's very basic. You add columns to it, and it creates and adds granularity, right? So let's say I add category and I add profit. So because there are just three categories, the granularity is set to three, right? Now let's say I add cities or states. So states are 15 US. So again, the granularity will change to 50 number of rows. So I add state and I add it over here. Then what happens is that 50 multiplied by 3. So that adds up to 150, right? So three categories, and so all that combination add up to 150 rows that are present over there. Okay. Now I add transaction ID, right? So my transaction ID is my order ID. So I'll add a order ID, and what happens is that whatever number of unique number of order IDs are there, all of them will be present over here. So now they we are looking at profit, and we will add sales. Now what we will say is that for September 2016, right? So I'll add a order date over here. So when I add order date, and I have not set the hierarchy. If you see, it had four columns, which says year, quarter, month, and a day. What I'll do, I'll remove the hierarchy and I'll just say order date. Okay, so it adds the plain date over there. So what I'll do over here is that I'll take this order date and I'll add it to the drill through fields. Okay, so what it does is that it will filter this data by order date. So the key thing here to remember is that whenever we are using drill through, it has to be something common between two charts. There has to be some common link, right? Either it could be date or a profit value or a sales value or a category. Something has to be common. Okay. And now if I go and go to page one and I look at September 2016, right? And I don't see a drill through option. Okay. Uh, 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 So again, I go back, and then for this, if I go and see, again, I don't see a filter option. Okay, for now, I'll just remove order date and maybe add profit. Uh, and then if I go back to my September 2016, this is my profit. Yes. Okay. So I'll again add a quantity over here. So what I'm saying, if there is a profit or if there is a quantity, I want it to be drilled through. And now I'm looking at a profit, right? And as I click on this link and I go to my page two, right? So I'm seeing all October related transactions. I clicked on October, and I see all October specific transactions present over here. So the way I did it was I used quantity and profit, which is the common link between these two, right? So if I click on this profit, now November 2015, and then I say drill through, and I go to page two, again I see for November 2015 what was my transactions and where did it happen. And the next part that they can do is that they can go on these three dots and say export data. So once they say export data, I'll just put it on desktop for now. I'll say save. And when I open this data, it is exported based on the. So this is only for November 2015. So this is how you can do it. I'll again repeat the process since it's little confusing at times. So I'll remove this. I'll delete this page. And again, so this is clear, right? So you have a line chart. With line chart, you have a profit, quantity, and date, right? So I'll rename this to my summary page. It's summary, okay? And over here, I'll say rename see transactions. Okay. So I'll rename this page to see transactions, and in this table, I've added product ID, order ID, category, um, profit, and sales segment, right? So all those things that I wanted to add, I'll make this a bit bigger, okay? And now what I'm saying is that it says add drill through fields over here. So what I do, I take this profit and I go and add. So what we are saying is that allow drill through when it is summarized. So why I'm saying it summarized, because if you see, we are, yes, month and sum of profit, right? So it's summarized. You're right. So as now I go and see, I'll drill through and I'll say see transactions. So we can add a page, rename page, and when they go and see, they're able to see what they want. So this is how you can do and play around with drill through. So that is just one application of drill through. There are other applications as well. Like let's say you have a dashboard, another page that is present over here. So let's say here you have category wise profit, right? You have state wise profit, and you have another visual that is present, and here you are showing profit by city, okay? And now what we do is that we take the profit and say allow drill through when it is summarized. And when I click on this page, right click on it, I see two options. One is the page that we already created, see transactions, and there is new page. And again over here I can see data for the way I filter, right? So it, yeah, yeah, yeah. And when I say filter on this visual, it tells me it is for September 2014, the data point that I selected upon. So yeah, that's how you can use it. And if you, yeah, yeah, yeah. So you can go back to this. You would have to control and go back. And when you go back to let's say 2016, and again you go to page one, then you see 2016 data. And when you hover on this filter, it says 2016. And let's say you want to add more clarity to your users. uh, this card is something that you can use. So this card, you can show it over here. So what this card does is that it takes order date. So you can say, it's a, in this you can add here, or you'll add order date, and here using format, you would just say month here. So you would show February 2016. And when I click on which month is this? This is March 2015. So I drill through to page one and I see just March 2015. So that's how you can play around. So I'll explain what this card does, and I'll also explain the filtering and the data format type. But I hope you get the idea of using drill through, uh, to when do we use it and how do we use it. So that's how you can use drill through. So that is another type of filter. So far, these are the ways you can filter your data, and it's up to you how you want to stitch them together to show the story that you want to show. So far, if I may ask you, like, since it's our third session, I guess. So after three sessions, do you feel more confident with Power BI? Okay. Okay. Yeah, yeah. Please do. Please. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yes. Yeah, yeah. But please do. Practicing is also important. So going forward, what I'll do, because as the complexity will go higher and higher, um, I won't just do things and um, like we'll do it together as we move ahead. Like the bookmark parts, or the DAX part or the relationship part is something that we both do together, so that we understand. Like, because you should be very comfortable with this. More and more you practice, you would be comfortable, and after that, even if you give 6 months of gap, you would still, like, you would need 2 days to look around, but then you should be still fine, because you know how the buttons work. So yeah. So yeah, that's the one way. So now, okay, so we looked at a lot of filtering options. Let me think if there is another one, or else we can wrap the filters part of it. So yeah, I think those are the types of filters. Seven. Which one? This one? Slicer. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah. So yeah, this is the slicer. Okay, so now that we looked at this, uh, we can also see. mm, Okay, yeah. So I can cover this part for today. I was thinking of what I can cover for next 15 minutes, something that is useful. So the next part is that there is a help button. With this help button, what you can do is actually you can there is a Power BI community, right? So if you click on this guided learning, what happens is that uh, you can go to this guided learning path. It is absolutely free of cost, and you can get started with Power BI. Since we have already spent 3-4 hours, you won't need the primary introductory part. But still, if you want to do a recap, you can go and do it over here. Then there are some training videos available from Microsoft. So this is the YouTube channel of Microsoft, where you can actually see what's happening recently, right? So the the way Power BI they have developed is that for every month they add something new. So even I cannot say I know all of this, because nobody knows everything, because they are every day they are adding some new feature, and every month they are updating it. So if you see, the next month they would add something and say this month we are adding these two filters, or these two types of charts, or this two type of something. So it could be a small thing, but if you look for 1 year, in 1 year they make a lot of changes, and tool looks entirely different. The basic things are same, the basic functionalities are same, but UI could be a different, or uh, there could be more addition of charts or more ease of doing things, right? So people always want to say, okay, can I sort this by this, or um, can we add a button to do this? So recently, they have added this new feature, which is Insert button, and yeah, so this button where you say clear all slicers or apply all slicers, right? So the good practice, you have 7 slicers in one page, and then you have that clear all slicers. So just add that button, and once you add that button, it just clears all the slicers. So yeah, remove all the slicers. So yeah, so that is the new feature, right? So the way Power BI came in 2016, it was just a dashboarding tool, but now it has gone beyond and doing much more than that. So you can integrate applications within Power BI. So recently we had a user case where user would input a goal. Okay, so let's say you are a manager and you have 10 employees within you, and you set up the performance target of, let's say, 15, right? So what it should do is that it should take input from you, take it back to the database, and add it to database, and again bring back the calculation saying Abhishek had the target 15, and how much he has achieved and how much he has to achieve, and it has to do a real time thing. So that's why, and it should not just, I say 15 and what's my performance. It's more of, it should store that value in the database with the timestamp. So if you see, that's a lot of hard work, because you have to create data pipeline, integrate it with Power BI, and build some custom calculations in Power BI. So that is achievable now using Power Automate and Power App. Earlier, that integration was not possible, but because Office 365 is coming in, there are a lot of new features being added. So these Power Apps and Power Automate are also there. So you can, let's say you become expert in Power BI. The next ideal step, if you want to go grow more technically, uh, and or add another flavor, is that you build a dashboard. Along with dashboard, can you think of building an app? So that is achievable through Power Apps. The Power Automate is where you can set up the trigger, set up the action. So someone but push but press on this button, adds a value, should trigger a flow of Power Automate, and that should create a process flow. So that is achievable through Power Automate. So those are the things that are newly available. I have not seen, like, 3 4 years before, it was not that much common, but now it's very common. So yeah. The next part is documentation. So documentation is something, it's in a very detailed format. Okay, so it could be anything, any possible thing. So let's say you want to understand how this key influencers work, and then it would have a detailed documentation on how key influencers work. So you can search key, and you would see there are so much documentation on just one visual type, right? And it explains it by every possible way, and along with that it has videos also, and it has every possible detail. So whenever I get confused in something, I always read the documentation, and it is very useful. Since, let's say, you are very well versed with Power BI, so you would just quickly pick on other things and understand other aspects of Power BI. So that's why I would always recommend, let's say you get stuck on something, you can always refer, go back to documentation and read about it. The next part is support. So support is something that Power BI, Microsoft provides. So let's say, you want to ask a question, or go for technical documentation. You can go over here, and here you can create a support request. And let's say, your company pays for Power BI, so they provide support during downtime or something. If let's say, you have some kind of help that is needed. So because I don't have a pro, or I haven't paid for Power BI, that's why it says you don't have a Power BI pro. But let's say if my company has paid for it, I can ask for support over here. Then also there is Power BI blog. So this Power BI blog has a lot of new things. So like it says, introducing Microsoft Fabric and Copilot in Microsoft Power BI, right? So this recent one, July 23, so they have released on-premise data gateway, right? So announcing a public preview of automatic replica sync for dataset scale out. So there are so many new things that are coming in. Right? The next is the community. The community is where you ask any question and people like me or you or anyone can answer that question. And there are different types of questions. So if someone has so let's say you're stuck at a question or you have a doubt, there is a good chance that someone has already asked that question. So you can go and see that answer. So like conditional formatting, right? And if you see someone has asked a question, I'm trying to color code the values. How do I do it? Right? And then someone has added a answer over here, and that's how they are able to get that help. So yeah, you can be active on this. Let's say you would get a lot of help. Then there is Power BI for developers. The Power BI for developers is where you can actually see the detailed version. So let's say you have a company website, your own company website, and you want to pull data from that API from that website. So you can have that REST API, right? And all other things where you can actually do. So it's more of technical side of things. So you want to apply row level security. You want to check what is the capacity you want to deploy. So all that complex stuff that probably because you are more of a business side person, you're not technical, so you won't deal with that. But if you know this, that will be an added advantage for you. So then you have submit an idea. So let's say you are working on it, but you feel that there is there is something lacking in here, right? So it's not very flexible, or it could be applying conditional formatting to charts, or um, adding two three variables instead of just two in line chart. You want to add three or four variables. So then you can submit an idea, and when you click on this submit an idea, you would see that you submit the idea, and then Microsoft gets back to you. They say this request is on our roadmap, but we don't have timelines to share it. We'll update this idea when there are more details to share. So people add idea, and accordingly Microsoft also responds. So this is something that you can show it in your CV that my idea got accepted in Microsoft Power BI. So like, and you can filter by completed, right? So you would see there are some ideas that Microsoft has totally used it. So paginated reports, please make it available in Pro as well as Premium. Schedule export of a report to PDF, and they say how we have done it, and they have added the documentation link. They say add a spark line, right? So adding a spark line along with metrics. So I think it's there. So this is the metrics visual, and I see category, and I see profit. Is there a spark line? Yes, add a spark line, and I say by order date. I want to add a spark line. I'll explain this in detail. Don't worry. This is just I want to show, right? So something like this, right? So they have added this in their website. So how do we do? Like he had submitted this idea in 2014, um, and they have added it. So yeah, this is something that you can. This spark line is kind of a shows a trend. Like it tells me that when I look at furniture, it tells me that how does furniture profit over the period of time, order date. So that's how it shows a trend kind of thing. So yeah, so exactly what line chart does, but within your table. Yeah. And then so yeah, this is how you can go and see uh, all the ideas, and there are some voted ideas. Like you can vote if something that I have added and you feel okay, it's a very good idea, then you can vote on it. So again, like this is more of someone who is day in day out working in Power BI. Uh, the next is external tools. So there are external tools along available with Power BI. So you can add a Python. So if you code in Python, you can add a Python coding platform over here. You can add a SQL Server connector over here. A lot of things that you can do. I'll take one or two over there where you would need or you would really need help. But most of them you won't be like 90% of things are achievable in this, in my opinion. Then let's say you wanna look at some examples of the dashboards that are already there made by people. You can go to the sample reports, and here you would find a lot of links. Like this is one of the dashboard that people have made, right? You can download and you can see it for yourself. And there are a lot of things like you can go and download the PBIX file. So let's say next time you want to develop a report, right? So what you can do is that you can take some idea from this built-in report and download like, and then accordingly you can build your visualizations. So let's just see if I have. So it shows the sample. Same samples. And now when I open it, can you see this? Yeah. Yeah. So this is their introductory page where they have added some image in the background, right? And they have added the links, and then over here they have these kind of charts, right? And then if I want to see, yeah, yeah. Yes, yes, you can do it. You can do it. Only thing is that it will show temporary error, but you'll have to just add the like your columns present over here, and it will be achievable. Like another thing we looked at decomposition tree, right? So it shows the decomposition tree uh, over here, and then I don't want to see it. I'll just close it. I'll open key influencers. Like I'll explain what key influencers is, but I hope you get the idea. Like this is really cool, right? I mean, this is one of my favorite reports. They have made it really cool. Yeah. And you go to the next page. See, they have made some line chart. So yeah, that's how you can use and make good visualization. So it if I show you like with the basic charts, they look really simple, right? So this line chart looks really really simple, but look how they have customized it and made it very beautiful. So you have all the tools in your hand. It's like how do you apply your creativity and create this? So that's how you have to think of it. So yeah, yeah, this. Mhm. Hmm. So let's say I have a sit category, and then I have city for all cities. Right. Okay. Uh, let's say you want to do for see for all cities without categories, right? Okay. Okay. Yes. Hmm. Right. 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 Yes. Yes. Okay. 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 Uh, it is possible through filters. Like let's say, then it's kind of a workaround. But then I'll say I don't want to see technology, and so technology is excluded. And I'll right. दोन्ही एकत्र. Okay. So then म्हणजे हे असं मी रिमूव्ह करेल, then it will show consolidated for both of them. हां. But okay. Okay. That's not the logic. Yeah. ते थोडंसं लिमिटेशन आहे. मग तुम्हाला दुसरं व्हिज्युअल यूज करावं लागेल. हां. Yeah. हं. ओके. हां. ओके. 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 राइट. तर मग याच्यामध्ये राइट. मग आपण एक वर्क अराउंड आहे. थोडासा वर्क अराउंड असतो पॉवर बीआय मध्ये. दॅट कुड बी समथिंग लाइक की इथे यू हॅव कॅटेगरी. सो लेट्स से तुमचा हा ओरिजिन वन आहे. सो इथे तुम्ही सिटी फर्निचरची दाखवली, आणि इथे सेम आय डू इट फॉर कॅटेगरी, अँड आय से ऑफिस सप्लाईज, आणि आय शो सिटी अगेन. आणि आता सो दिस इज हाऊ यू कॅन सो वर्क अराउंड आहे. काही ना काहीतरी असं वर्क अराउंडच बघावं लागतं पॉवर बी. सो या सो असे तुम्ही टेम्पलेट्स डाउनलोड करू शकता. सो दॅट इज प्रेझेंट ओव्हर हिअर. येस येस मी शेअर करतो लिंक तुमच्यासोबत. सो दॅट इज प्रेझेंट ओव्हर हिअर गिट हब. तर हे पॉवर बी ए सॅम्पल रिपोर्ट्स आहेत. ठीक आहे. सो इथे तुम्हाला सॅम्पल रिपोर्ट्स. सो इथे तुम्हाला ह्या सगळ्या रिपोर्टच्या पीबीएक्स फाईल मिळतील. सो लेट्स से तुम्हाला सेल्स अँड रिटर्न बघायचं आहे. ओके. सो ते आहे इथे सॅम्पल रिपोर्ट्स, एक्सटर्नल टूल्स, सॉरी, हेल्प, अँड देन एक्झाम्पल्स, सॅम्पल रिपोर्ट्स. सो फ्रॉम हेल्प, हां, एक्झाम्पल सॅम्पल रिपोर्ट्स. आणि फॉर युअर ओन ईज मी तुम्हाला ही लिंक शेअर करून देतो, सो दॅट यू कॅन रेफर इट. So, so yeah, so that's how you can use this help tab. And then there is consulting services also. So let's say in future you become a leader, you are already, but let's say you become a very big leader of 15, 20 managers and leading again 15, 20. So let's say you have people team of 200 or 300 people, and you want to take consulting services from someone who are experts in Power BI. So what you can do is there are some Microsoft certified consultants, and they do 4 week, 5 week programs, and they actually do a lot of uh, projects which are not just ideation but execution as well, and they charge some amount. But idea is to, you can always look for them over here, or if not, you can just take ideas. These are some monetization ahead. So what they did over here, and they give a glance of it, and they give some sort of idea that how they did it and which is the technology that they use. So that is something that you can always have a timer. So yeah, so this is how help tab actually. So it is very underrated. Nobody goes through it, but it has actually a lot of value. Uh, so you can always go back over here. So yeah, so next class what we focus on is, uh, since we have covered most of like many visualization type, we'll cover rest of them. But we know how to make a chart. We know how to filter a data. The next step that we will do is that we'll focus on Power Query, which is the heart of Power BI. Uh, so this is over here, the backend part of it. So this is something that we should. This is called as ETL tool of Power BI: extract, transform, and load. And you can all clean and clean all the data over here. So I'll explain that in our tomorrow's session, and then we'll see how we things move ahead. येस, येस, येस. मी प्रत्येक या, या. प्रत्येक म्हणजे याच्यावर जसं तुम्ही पाहिलंच, की प्रत्येक टॉपिकचा मी यूज केस पण तुम्हाला सांगतोय, आणि म्हणजे आय गो टू द निटीज ग्रिटीज अँड हाऊ वुड यू यूज इट, बिकॉज इट हेल्प्स. So yeah, definitely I'll focus on this and make sure that this part, relationships part and tax part is very well covered, because you know how to make a chart. So yeah, 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 yes, sir. Yes, yeah, sure, sure. Yes, yes. Yes, yes, yes. Yes, yes. Very good. We'll do definitely. Definitely. Yes. Okay then. Moin. I'll see you tomorrow.